it'd be great to start talking about the difference between stress and anxiety so people understand that.
Yeah. So it's basically, anxiety is sort of a mental health condition, if you want, whereas stress is kind of a factor that, you could be experiencing life stress, and that can worsen your anxiety if you're predisposed to it. That sort of thing. Yeah. It's almost like stress, you could think of stress as the fuel, right?
Yeah.
But they're quite different because there's no necessary connection between stress and anxiety.
It seems to me that stress is something that's happening now based on something that's going on in your life, and it can be perhaps relieved more quickly if you can learn how to deal with that, whereas anxiety might not be due to a specific cause. Is that often the case, where anxiety, you're feeling anxious, but it's not always, there's a stressor in your life?
Yeah.
Too simple?
No, that could be true too. And also what I thought you were going to say, which would also have been true, is that anxiety is very future focused, right? Whereas, there can be something in the present that is potentially a trigger for your stress, but the feeling of anxiety is usually based on some often ill-defined concept of what may happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a naturopathic doctor focusing almost exclusively on anxiety and anxiety disorders. What are people, when they come to you, what are they feeling other than anxiety? Why are they coming to you? How do they describe it?
So often it's at two ends of the I guess medical care spectrum. So sometimes people come before they want to try something natural, right? Before they are before pharmaceuticals. So there's that end of it. On the other side of it, it's people who are either on pharmaceuticals and it's just not enough, and they want something that's not, they want something that's not going to interact or is unlikely to interact with what they're currently taking, that their psychiatrist, for example, put them on. Or they're in the process of weaning off the drugs that they were on, and they just want a little bit of help in that process to make it as smooth as possible. So it's usually kind of at both ends. Yeah.
Can we talk about those as two separate cases?
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure there's almost like a spectrum. But what if we just started with a general feeling of anxiety? What can people expect when they talk to you? How do you help them?
Well, we spend a lot of time talking about the nature of their anxiety. What we're really looking for is to get enough of an idea about their experience of anxiety that we can recommend treatments that are simple and effective. I think the more you understand what's causing it, the easier it is to recommend good treatments rather than sort of just kind of recommending the same thing to everybody across the board. So yeah, and we take time in that first appointment to do that. So that's generally the process. I mean, there's enough variation in between individuals that I can't really give you sort of like everybody will have this happen, other than to say, yeah, there's that first visit where we talk quite a bit and try to make some good recommendations.
What types of recommendations might you make? And I'm curious about how that differs from what a conventional doctor and
like a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist. Yeah. So I'm well, there's similarities. Let's start with that. I mean, the similarities would be, I do often recommend that people try to find a therapist that's a good fit for them. We do some talk therapy type stuff here, but again, depending on the person, quite often seeing a therapist regularly is a good idea. What's different from, say, a psychiatrist is simply that I would not recommend pharmaceuticals. Not to say that I don't recommend anybody be on pharmaceuticals, of course, time and a place, just that I, being a naturopathic doctor, am recommending other things. Often herbs, supplements, certainly. But really, because we as naturopaths do lifestyle counseling, dietary counseling, acupuncture would be another example of something that I do, possibly less than herbs and supplements, but those are all things that may be brought to bear if the situation warrants it.
So it sounds like it really is tailored to each person's needs.
Yeah.
And you also are counseling on like dietary changes, exercise, things like this?
Yeah, I mean, again, if it's warranted. There are times when people come in and they're already doing everything quite well in terms of their diet, for example, but sometimes not. And what a shame to miss something as simple, not necessarily easy, but as simple as a dietary or simple lifestyle tweak that could impact your mood, right? Yeah.
It's the kind of thing where I think we can all think of things we can do ourselves if we're experiencing anxiety to relieve it, but a naturopath can really help you figure things out that you can't figure out on your own.
Yes, sometimes it helps to see somebody who's seen things a few times and can offer an outside perspective, for sure.